Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. For 10 years after we got married, my husband David always wanted our son Ryan to pretend he was sick. He wouldn't let Ryan go to gym class. It was all because Wendy's daughter, who had a heart problem, couldn't run or jump and was afraid of being made fun of. David wanted Ryan to be just like her, so she wouldn't feel alone. When David once again told Ryan off for walking too fast and not acting sick enough, I finally gave up. I stayed up all night writing a divorce agreement. The next day, I talked to Ryan's teacher and asked for Ryan to be moved to another class, saying it would be better for his development. The teacher was happy about it. She said, "Ryan is a healthy child. I used to think he learned from Cindy." She also mentioned that Ryan clearly wanted to play basketball with the other kids, but would hesitate when he saw Cindy. I smiled, thinking that wouldn't happen again. No one could stop my son from being himself anymore. As I walked out of the office, I saw David and Wendy with her daughter. Wendy's daughter looked upset, like she was about to cry. David looked sad but spoke very gently, trying to comfort Wendy's daughter. It made me feel really sad. He would easily scold his own son but was so caring towards someone else's daughter. When she saw me, the little girl seemed surprised, and tears immediately fell from her eyes. David's face darkened. He stepped forward, blocking Wendy and her daughter, and asked coldly, "What are you doing here?" I took a breath, and any remaining good feelings I had disappeared. Without looking at him, I said calmly, "My son came home unhappy yesterday, and I came to talk to the teacher to understand why." Wendy smiled, picked up her daughter, and said to me, "What a coincidence. Some mean girls in gym class this morning wouldn't let Cindy play, and even jumped rope in front of her. This poor child came home crying." David said, "We can't let that kind of bullying happen," and insisted on getting justice for Cindy. "Shouldn't you come in with us to talk?" I pretended not to see the smug look in her eyes, but my hands clenched tightly. David wouldn't let our son play with his friends. After a while, no children came to play with Ryan. During that time, Ryan always came home feeling very sad. So I asked the teacher about it, but David and I ended up having a big argument. He complained that I worried too much, saying it was better for Ryan to focus on studying, and that I shouldn't bother the teacher for no reason. But seeing Ryan so sad really broke my heart. In the end, I secretly contacted the parents of Ryan's classmates with small gifts, and the problem was finally solved. As for David, I always thought he just didn't understand how sensitive children are. But Wendy's words made me realize something. It wasn't that he didn't understand, he just didn't care about his own son's feelings. I shook my head, said, "Good luck," and turned to leave. When I got back to Ryan's classroom, he was excitedly leaning on the teacher's desk. When he saw me, he immediately, "Mom, look, Cindy got an A on this test. Dad said that as long as I help Cindy improve her grades, he will let me participate in the tug-of-war competition." I looked at the report card and felt so much pain that I couldn't speak. I didn't even know that David had made such a deal with his son. "Mom, hurry and send the report card to Dad. The tug-of-war competition is about to start." I nodded and took out my phone to send David a photo. After seeing it, Ryan happily jumped off the desk and pulled me towards the playground. "Mom, remember to take a picture of me. I'm really strong and I will definitely win." Maybe it was his first time being in the tug-of-war, and Ryan was very excited, saying hello to everyone with cheers and joy. "Mom, look, that's my class over there. Can you help me take some pictures with my classmates later?" As he spoke, Ryan took out the competition armband from his pocket and put it on carefully. I took a few pictures of him and watched as he walked towards his classmates. It looked like about a dozen children had talked about something, making Ryan the leader of the group. The very first person I looked at was Ryan's obvious happiness, and my heart ached. I quickly opened my phone to capture this moment. Since David had made Ryan pretend to be sick, seeing him so full of life had become rare. The competition was about to start, and Ryan smiled in my direction. I also showed him my phone and told him I was recording, making sure to capture everything. But just before the whistle blew for the match, Ryan was taken out of the game. After the teacher took him out, Ryan seemed completely sad. "Ryan's mom," the child's father said, "the child is weak, and if the child participates in the competition, he will sue the school. We have no choice, and we hope you can understand." My mind went blank, and everything I thought I knew fell apart in that moment. After knowing him for more than 10 years, it was the first time I saw David acting like a spoiled child. In a daze, I truly understood Wendy and her daughter's importance to David. The competition didn't stop because of my son. Hearing the distant shouts of 1, 2, 3, pull, my son sadly threw himself into my arms. Cindy, my grades have clearly improved. Why won't Dad let me participate? A sharp pain went through my heart as I quickly knelt down to hug him. It's Dad who is being unfair. How about after school? Mom will take you to play badminton to make it up to you. After calming Ryan down, I walked a few steps away to call David. No matter what, Ryan was still his son, and as a father, he couldn't be so unfair. As my phone screen unlocked, David's call came in automatically. The moment the call connected, the whole phone was filled with David's angry voice. Isn't it enough to sneak into a simple competition? Why does everyone need to know? Now everyone thinks Ryan is fine. What about Cindy? How many strange looks does she have to deal with? As a young girl, I was surprised for a moment, slowly realizing what I was talking about Wendy's daughter, who was shy and didn't like talking to other kids. But she didn't want to be the only one in the class with no one to talk to. Ever since Wendy and her daughter moved here, David had forbidden his son from talking to several classmates at once. This time, the test results were released in the morning. Ryan saw Cindy and then gathered with other kids who were also in the tug-of-war to talk more. As I watched my son, who was still looking eagerly at the tug-of-war competition in the distance, my anger grew stronger and I started breathing heavily. But David didn't notice anything wrong and kept questioning me. You're also not feeling well. Why are you making such a big deal over a stupid competition on social media? Are you happy now that Cindy has been taken away by an ambulance because she got so upset? I'm giving you 10 minutes to get to the hospital and apologize. I looked at my son in the distance, trying to control my anger, and said, Impossible, David. As a father, you are unfair. What right do you have to tell the child what to do? Ryan won't go, so forget about it. After saying that, without waiting for him to reply, I hung up the phone. My son came over and tugged at my clothes. Mom, please don't be angry. I'm not upset anymore. From now on, I will be a man and protect you. My nose felt a bit tingly with sadness, and I hugged my son again. David, I have decided to let go. After leaving school, I first took Ryan to the badminton court. I bought him new sportswear and a racket, and then drove to our old house in the suburbs. The house in the suburbs was where my parents lived. Since I had decided to leave, it was time to say goodbye. Mom, this racket is better than the one at school. Look here. After getting out of the car, Ryan held my hand and showed me all the reasons why this one was better. I was feeling a little sad. Ryan had liked these things since he was little, but because of Cindy, he was afraid to mention it, worried I might argue with David. I nodded slightly. Wait until you wear your new clothes to tell Grandpa and Grandma as well, okay? Ryan nodded and happily ran to the front, wanting to help me open the door. But just as he was about to go inside, he suddenly stopped, turned around, and ran back to say he wanted to grab another racket. I had planned to stand at the door and wait for him, but the door was suddenly opened from the inside. It was David. At that moment, David was holding Cindy in his arms, with Wendy's hand on his other arm. Wendy saw me, calmly pulled her hand away and smiled. What a coincidence! My mind went blank, and I quickly pushed past Wendy and rushed into the small courtyard. Just as I expected, the inside had completely changed. All I could see was pink, but my heart felt like it had been dropped into ice. Who told you to move them, David? This is my parents' house. What right do you have to let them move in? I was breathing heavily, but David didn't care at all, saying back, What's the big deal about staying in a house? For a while? The doctor said. This place is good for Cindy to recover. Don't worry, as soon as Cindy is better, I'll put everything back the way it was. Besides, aren't you always worried that your parents' spirits are here? So you shouldn't be worried, right? I was extremely shocked listening to his ridiculous words, and the disappointment in my eyes couldn't be hidden anymore. David looked surprised for a moment but quickly acted normal again and said, Don't be ungrateful. You caused Cindy to have an emotional breakdown and legally you could go to jail. It's already kind of Cindy not to blame you. After saying that, he turned to leave. Just then Ryan ran back. Seeing David, Ryan instinctively hid the racket behind his back and quietly called out, Dad. David didn't notice Ryan's change in mood and just looked coldly at the hand behind his son. What are you holding? Are you not feeling well and can't remember? Now you're breaking things in front of me. Don't make me do something myself. Ryan stood still. David couldn't get the same reaction as before, and his anger grew. He walked toward his son as if he was provoked, handing Cindy to Wendy. I felt like something was wrong and rushed forward to stand in front of my son. David, what do you want to do? Without even hesitating, David pushed me aside and slapped his son across the face. Seeing the racket, he stepped on it even harder. Ryan, is this how I usually teach you as an older brother? How can you dare to show off the racket knowing your sister is unwell? David was very strong. With one slap, Ryan's face immediately swelled up on one side, and tears streamed down his face. I quickly pulled Ryan behind me and shouted at David, "Are you crazy? Hitting your own son for someone else? David, if you don't want to raise our son, I can do it myself. We can get a divorce anytime so you can truly be with Wendy." David was stunned, looking at me in disbelief. Seeing this, Wendy quickly pretended to try and calm things down. "Sister-in-law, don't say such angry words in front of the children." After saying that, she looked at David with a guilty expression. "David, don't feel bad because of me. I'm already very grateful that you haven't forgotten how we used to feel. Cindy and I will leave now, and we won't bother you again in the future." As she spoke, Wendy suddenly started crying, saying with a pained heart, "It's just that Cindy has suffered. Not a single day after she was born has she been able to express her emotions freely." I was speechless for a moment. Cindy's heart problem wasn't that serious. The surgery had a very high success rate, almost 99%. But Wendy just disagreed repeatedly, expressing her worries in a motherly way. Half a year had passed, and even if we now hired the best doctor for the surgery, it was likely that the success rate wouldn't be as high as before. David planned to comfort Wendy, but he glanced at me with some hesitation. Wendy dramatically wiped her tears and ran off with Cindy before she could take 2 steps. I woke up as soon as that child opened his eyes. He immediately became breathless. "Cindy, what's wrong with you? Don't scare Mommy." Hearing the commotion, David immediately became worried and rushed to Wendy, telling her to get the child into the car right away. Just as David turned to leave, Ryan suddenly called out to him, asking if he could stay. "Dad, I understand Cindy's illness. She won't just wake up like this." David turned back, his eyes filled with disappointment and disgust. "Ryan, how have you become so cold? Cindy is in danger and you're not worried? You can even say something like this? You really disappoint me too much." Just as I was about to say something back, David turned and left, leaving me with nothing but a threat. "Sarah, whether to divorce is up to you, but you can't take our son away." He thought he could use the child to threaten me, but he didn't know that our son had never considered going with him. As soon as David left, Ryan came up and hugged me. "I only want Mom." I hugged him back. The thought of leaving had never been so strong. That day I officially quit my job. On the day my resignation was approved, I quickly booked the earliest flight. "Are you taking everything? Do you like this?" While packing, Ryan took out all of his things. I looked at a doll and his belongings, surprised. Ryan hesitated for a moment before quietly saying, "I don't like it." "Then why are you still carrying it? If we run out of money in the future, we can sell it for cash." My heart felt tight, and I couldn't help but tear up as I lowered my head to rest against Ryan's forehead. "There's no need for that. Mom can fully support Ryan. Ryan can just take what he likes. I can work, and with the savings my parents left me, I can completely pay for both of our living expenses." Ryan nodded and started packing his luggage again. During a break, I took out my phone and opened my chat with David. I had already signed the divorce agreement. As his wife, I thought it was necessary to let him know. The call connected quickly, and David's voice came through. "Sarah, I have good news for you. Cindy is getting better. I found the best expert on heart problems, and I've already made an appointment. In at most 2 months, Cindy will be cured." His voice was full of excitement while I remained calm. It had been more than 20 days since our last argument. In the past, I would have definitely been upset that my husband only mentioned this after so long, and that the first thing he talked about was someone else's child. But now, I just made a sound of agreement and didn't feel much. Hearing my response, David became even happier. Don't worry, I will definitely make it up to you and Ryan when I get back. Didn't you mind Cindy moving things in the old house last time? I've already had someone clear it out. Are you happy now? Before I could speak, the doctor's voice came from the other end, urging him. David immediately hung up the phone. I listened to the busy tone, glancing at the divorce agreement on the coffee table, seeing the desire to say anything more. He would see it when he came back. Because Ryan gets motion sickness, a friend specifically stopped at a park on the way to the airport to let him feel better. Seeing the playground nearby, Ryan asked if he could go play for a while. I looked at the time and nodded, saying, "You can play for a while. We have plenty of time right now." Ryan was very happy, running forward quickly, but suddenly he stopped. I walked over, seeing David and Wendy with her daughter. Wendy looked at me in surprise. How does my sister-in-law know we are being treated at the nearby hospital? Is Ryan also sick? Hearing the sound, David turned around and immediately frowned when he saw me. Didn't you promise to behave? Hurry back. You're affecting Cindy's treatment here. Saying this, he glanced at the time, his voice becoming more annoyed. It's still far from school dismissal time. Aren't you afraid that taking Ryan out of class will lead him astray? I was about to speak when Ryan suddenly reached out towards Cindy. Why can't she stand me participating in the tug-of-war competition? Yet she can sit on the seesaw. Isn't it possible to get emotionally worked up on the seesaw? David was stunned, seeming somewhat lost. He picked Cindy up and patted the seesaw. Kids can play after all. Come on, son, let Dad play with you once. No need. You should just continue being Cindy's dad. I was surprised and quickly looked at Ryan. Ryan clenched his fist tightly, but his gaze was incredibly determined. That expression was exactly the same as when David hit him while I was putting medicine on his wounds. David was stunned by Ryan's words, and after he reacted, his face turned red and angry. What did you just say? Ryan kept his fists clenched and said word by word, "You can continue to be Cindy's father. I don't need you anymore." David looked at Ryan in disbelief. What nonsense are you talking about? Cindy has her own father, and I am your dad. Saying this, David turned to look at me, wondering what I had told Ryan. I found it a bit funny, as if he had completely forgotten the time he slapped his own son. That slap David gave was with full force, and because Ryan was young, it caused an injury that hadn't fully healed. Even now, David seemed to have thought of something, and a hint of guilt suddenly appeared on his face. Ryan, be a good boy, and after all this is over, Dad will make it up to you. You can play whatever you want that day. You were indeed a bit too unruly, but there are no lasting grudges between father and son. It's all in the past. Ryan didn't speak, walking back in silence. David asked me what was going on, and after I gave a few vague answers, I quickly left. Back in the car, I thought Ryan would be even more upset, but surprisingly, after a moment of silence, he became lively again. Mom, will I be able to join gym class and play with my classmates after I start at the new school? I nodded slowly, listening to Ryan's hopes for the new school. After all, children's energy is limited. By the time we got on the plane, Ryan was almost asleep. As he walked through the gate, he suddenly murmured, "I thought Dad would apologize to me. Mom, we're never going back." I replied with a simple, "Good." The new school was even better than Ryan imagined. The kids there didn't have any preconceived ideas about Ryan and were excited on his first day, gathering around him to ask questions. They warmly welcomed Ryan and asked him all sorts of things. Moreover, Ryan was good at studying and had a gentle personality. After a few days of being together, Ryan had completely fit into the new class, and his smile became brighter every day. Just when everything was getting better, so much so that I was about to forget that David hadn't sent me the divorce agreement yet, he called in the middle of the night.
"Honey, I'm drunk.
Can you come pick me up?" I was surprised, instinctively thinking he had dialed the wrong number. Why was he calling me in the middle of the night, drunk? Probably trying to reach Wendy. So I stayed silent and hung up. But before I could put down my phone, the call came in again. "This is Sarah." After saying that, I immediately turned off my phone. David, you and Wendy, mother and daughter, should no longer appear in my and Ryan's world for no reason. I thought the call at night was a mistake, but surprisingly, I received another call from David early the next morning. "Honey, are you home now? Is Ryan up yet? I looked at my son, who was eating beside me, and he made a sound in response. Then passed the phone to Ryan. I want to say a few words to him. I was indeed impulsive that day, and I apologized to my son. I hadn't planned to hide David's call from Ryan, so it was on speaker. Now I could hear David's last words, but Ryan didn't react at all. I looked back at the newspaper and said, "He's busy getting ready right now. Maybe next time." "So do you and Ryan want anything? I can bring something for you on my way home," David asked eagerly. Just before the call ended, he said, "Please sign the documents on the coffee table and hand them to my colleague." "No problem." After the call ended, I stared at my phone, confused. What was going on with David all of a sudden? Shouldn't he be with Wendy and her mother at this time? But soon I found out the reason. Wendy called me from a different number. At that time, I had just walked out of the meeting room. Before I came here, I often took time off because I was worried about Ryan's situation at school, and my work wasn't great. However, after moving, I quickly showed my skills. In just half a month, the call connected, and the person on the other end, Wendy, seemed to be drunk. Her speech and thoughts were mixed up. "How long do you plan to keep David busy with your questions? Why does it seem like we're just a little bit short?" I was confused for a long time before I finally understood what she was trying to say. It turns out Cindy wasn't her biological child. She blamed me for suddenly appearing and taking away her man, so she adopted Cindy to fight against me. Everything was going well, but unexpectedly the surgery had problems and Cindy urgently needed a blood transfusion. Wendy has AB blood type and Cindy has O blood type. This information caught David's attention. After looking into it, they found out that the two were not related by blood. After the surgery, the doctor pointed out that the child had been malnourished for a long time. As all the information came together, David realized too late that he had been tricked. Hearing this news, I didn't feel anything. I just calmly hung up and blocked his number. Ryan and I had already started a new life. The past was no longer important. 10 minutes later, David called again. His voice was shocked, and I could hear him trembling through the phone. "Wife, did you dial the wrong number? Why is this a divorce agreement? Also, what about your and our son's things?" "That's right, it's the divorce agreement. I've already signed it. Take a look, and if there are no issues, please sign it for me." "Why? Where are you and our son now?" David sounded somewhat out of control, as if he had never expected this outcome. "It has nothing to do with you. You only need to sign the divorce agreement now." "I do not agree to the divorce, Sarah. Marriage is not a game. I will not agree to the divorce, nor will I give you custody of our son." "Then let's go to court. But one thing, I not only have the money to raise Ryan until he's an adult, but I can also make sure Ryan's wishes are heard in court." "Mr. David, how likely do you think it is that custody will be granted to you?" I didn't want to say more. I got straight to the point and hung up the phone. 2 days later, I hadn't received the divorce agreement, but I did see David. The man stood at the school gate, looking like he had been waiting for a long time. Seeing Ryan, the redness around David's eyes became even more obvious. He picked up the racket beside him and said proudly, "Does Ryan like it last time, Dad?" Before he could finish speaking, Ryan walked past him. Just before going inside, Ryan suddenly turned around and said under David's hopeful gaze, "Don't even think about it. I'm with my mom." Hearing this, David immediately looked hurt. Ryan ignored him and went into the school. I also didn't want to talk to him and turned back to go to work. Since that day, David had been hanging around every day at different times. He would wait nearby, sometimes bringing a small gift. You could say that the care he showed in one day was more than he had shown in the entire previous month, but it was too late. At first, I would remind him about the divorce agreement, but later I just ignored him, automatically tuning out his voice as soon as I heard it. One afternoon, a month later, David suddenly stood firmly in front of my car, not letting me leave. "David, can you find another place to die? Today is my birthday." David's voice was a bit careful as he asked, "It's my birthday today. Can you celebrate with me?" "I'm not interested." After all, since Wendy appeared, I hadn't celebrated any birthdays. I nodded, showing that it was the right time to talk about it. David lowered his head and stayed silent for a while before asking in a low voice, "Is there anything you want to eat?" "Anything," I replied quietly. "It's best to talk business." David's face turned pale for a moment. I didn't care to guess what he was thinking and got into the car first. Sarah, it's not what you think. Actually, Cindy, I know. Wendy told me everything one night when she was drunk in the restaurant. I waved my hand to stop David. So I was deceived? David said sadly, trying to grab my hand. Sarah, can we not get a divorce? We already have a child. Can you bear for him to grow up in a single-parent family? I sighed and opened my phone to show him a video of Ryan's new school sports day. In the video, Ryan, holding a medal, was smiling at the camera, and he looked much happier than before. Without you, Ryan is doing just fine, David. If you really care about the child, you should sign the papers as soon as possible. The damage has already been done. No matter how much you say, it won't change the facts. David looked very pained. He covered his eyes, asking me how things had gotten to this point. I could only say that from the moment he decided to put Wendy's daughter before Ryan, the outcome was already decided. Sarah, is it really impossible to save the feelings we've had for so many years? There's no way to fix it now. Hearing this, David's shoulders trembled, and I could only feel the irony. What have you been doing all morning? If you don't want to go to court, I hope you can be on time at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow at 10 o'clock. When I got home from the restaurant, Ryan was frying eggs in the kitchen. He wasn't tall enough yet and needed to stand on a small stool to reach the stove. I looked at the 4 eggs that were already cooked and asked Ryan what he wanted to make. Seeing me, Ryan immediately put down the spatula and happily jumped down from the stool. Mom, look at the eggs I fried. In the future, you can sleep in a little longer in the morning. I am a man of my word and will definitely take good care of Mom. I was very emotional. This is a bit dangerous for you to do right now. Can you help Mom sweep the floor first? If you want to do it, Mom has to be here. Okay. Ryan agreed obediently and then handed me a pair of chopsticks to let me try the eggs. He said this was what the teacher taught them in class today. Mom, I think I have a talent for cooking. Ryan looked up seriously and said, today the teacher taught us how to make soup dumplings, and I was the only one in the class who succeeded on the first try. The classmates are all around me asking me to teach them. Mom, can you do it? If you can't, I can teach you tonight. Then Mom will go make the dough in a bit. I looked at Ryan and felt incredibly lucky for the choice I had made. Being noticed is something everyone needs. In his previous school, because no one played with him when a classmate spoke to him, he would, I cling to them like someone drowning, desperately trying to keep them close. But now that was completely gone. The next morning at 10 o'clock in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau, not only was David there, but also Wendy and her daughter Cindy, who looked much paler than before, maybe because she had just had surgery. When I arrived, Wendy was arguing with David. I pieced together their past from their broken words. Childhood sweethearts in love at a young age. Yet she didn't want an ordinary life, wanting to become something special. She wouldn't let go, remembering things for many years. Now, Wendy wanted David to keep his promise to marry her. But David had changed his mind. I didn't have time to wait for them to finish arguing, so I walked over and called out to David. It was only then that I noticed he had dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept all night. Go in, David grunted in response. Wendy, although she didn't say anything more, followed closely behind us, staring intently at me and David while signing the papers. David suddenly stopped and asked if he would still be able to see Ryan in the future. You are his biological father. Legally speaking, as long as Ryan agrees, there is no problem. Will Ryan forgive me? I'm not sure. David paused again, his gaze empty, not knowing what to write. It wasn't until Wendy nudged him that he snapped back to reality. After signing, David seemed to have lost all his energy, slumping lifelessly in the chair. In contrast, Wendy suddenly became lively, like a summer butterfly, continuously urging the staff to issue their marriage certificate. I had no interest in this. After getting the certificate, I left the Civil Affairs Bureau directly. When I returned home for the new year to visit my parents' graves, I unexpectedly found some joss paper that hadn't completely burned out in front of the tombstone. Looking around, I saw David behind a big tree. For the past few months, David had been trying to contact Ryan, but each time he came, Ryan didn't want to see him. Mom, what are you watching? Nothing. I lowered my head and lit the paper money. A lot had happened over the past year, and I slowly told my parents about how things had been. Ryan did the same, and after I finished speaking, he also told his grandparents about the things he thought were important. This time I came back, I brought Ryan to meet old friends. When old friends get together, they always like to talk about the past. Someone mentioned David to me. She asked if I knew about David and Wendy getting married. I shook my head. To be honest, I wasn't concerned about any of the three of them, but if I had to choose one, I would be more interested in what happened to Cindy. That child was a bit cunning, but she wasn't the one who started everything. A friend said that David and Wendy's wedding was very simple, so simple that the groom didn't even show up. After the wedding, Wendy officially moved in with Cindy to the house that used to be David's and mine. First, Wendy was quite happy, but later she realized something was wrong. David, although he went to work on time every day to earn money and tried to get promotions, he never gave her any money. She wanted to use Cindy to make money, but David directly got Cindy a meal card. I made a sound of agreement and asked, "What about now? How is that child doing?" The friend paused for a moment, her expression a bit strange. "He's dead. Heart disease." "No," a friend suddenly lowered his voice and whispered. "Everyone suspects that child was used to get insurance money. You don't know how strange it is, suddenly jumping off a building to commit suicide." I didn't know what to say. Fortunately, no one got caught up in it, and the topic quickly changed. Half a year later, one day, David suddenly called me asking if I could bring Ryan back for a visit. At that time, I was at a friend's wedding back home. After thinking for a moment, I told him that Ryan was at summer camp and couldn't come back. "Can you come then?" "I can't, David. There is no relationship left between us." I returned to the office after the wedding ended. Later, during a casual chat, a friend told me that David had an incident on the day she got married. After Wendy ran out of money, she started stealing and selling valuable things from the house. She even wanted David to end up like Cindy, but David had figured out her plans early on, took precautions, and sent her to prison, injuring her leg. A friend suddenly leaned in quietly, saying, "I heard that David made a will, and after he dies, the money will go to you and Ryan. Is that true?" I was surprised. I vaguely remembered that phone call back then. "It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. Ryan and I don't need his money. Aren't you afraid that your son will run off with his father in the future?" the friend joked. I shook my head. "It's different. People are different."